Call the City Council work session to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Felder.
Here.
Nader. Here. Stilgray. Here. Vining. Germaini. Here.
Excused.
Mayor Clark.
Here. So we have a work session. First is public comment, right? So we start with see if there's any public comment. Today's work session is about the opioid settlement grant award update. Updates from the 25-26. Any public comment here this evening tonight? See no public comment. Clerk?
The next item is the work session agenda item, item 5603, 2025 and 2026 opioid settlement grant award update.
Thank you. Manager Robinson, we have one item.
Yes, Your Honor and Council. Last year was really the first year that, after receiving some of this grant, that we put out an RFP and went through a process to select the entities that we supported with this money. And we thought we would, tonight be a good night for us to give you an update, as we've also put out the RFP already for what would be funded for next year and what programs would be funded. And I know that there has been some commentary from some council members about having questions about, who's on the review panel and things like that. So we'd like to start out, and Director Cochran's going to give you an update on our what we've done, where we're at so far, and through the third quarter, how those entities have spent that money and the results that they've had.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Clerk Treasurer Lavoie, Mark Cochran, Assistant City Manager and Director of Economic and Community Development. Not going to repeat what the city manager already said, but over the years, we've had some of our opioid settlement funds accumulate. And so with the blessing of City Council last year, we did issue an RFP out to community partners to look at how we were going to deploy those in accordance with the settlement agreements that the various entities had reached. So just going to provide a little bit of background. Not going to read each of these, but since 2021, there have been multiple national settlements with both distributors and pharmacies and manufacturers related to the opioid epidemic across the United States. You'll see some of the larger ones. In 2021, this was more the distributors. There was about $776 million that's been awarded to Michigan out of that settlement, with it to be distributed over a course of about 18 years. 50% of that amount is distributed to local units of government, including counties and cities, and the other half is distributed by the state through various means and various functions. The other one was through pharmacies, including CVS, Walmart, and Teva. Michigan received about $450 million through that settlement in 2022, with, again, half of that being distributed to local units of government. And there were other ones that you'll see here, like McKinsey and Mallinckrodt, as well as Walgreens, and then most recently the Purdue Pharma and Indo International settlements. Some of these are distributed to local units of government, and others are like the $11.3 million settlement with Mallinckrodt, is being kept by the state and not being distributed. So through each of these, through the city attorney, we've met with city council, and you've made action on whether to join each of these settlements or not. And in each case, we've been awarded various funds that will be distributed, over $500 million, I believe, to local units of government over the next 18 years. And so through this, we've had discussions looking at the requirements for the settlement agreements and what our requirements are, where the funds need to be spent, how they need to be spent, and what the requirements are for us. And through that, we decided to issue a request for proposals last year. Last year was the first time, and the first RFP was sent out, the first round, September 13th, 2024, and those were due in October. And then City Council made several grant awards later that year in December. But also in December, we realized we still had more funds, so we issued a second round of RFP to providers who may not have known about the first round when it was sent out. And those were due back in January earlier this year, and City Council awarded those in February of that same year. And so going into what are the use of the funds, who can apply, who is eligible. Eligible applicants that can utilize these funds include organizations or groups that are addressing opioid prevention, harm reduction, and treatment and recovery. Generally, that's the guidelines that's in the settlement agreements. It can't be used for programs that are outside of those three eligible activities. And then once we got the scoring, or once we got all the RFPs back, we did score them. Really, it was pretty strict on how we could score them because there's some specific language in terms of how the funds can be used and who can use them. And so we did form a committee internally of several city administrative staff to score each of the applications. And I will say, we looked at very subjectively the description of the project. Did it meet the eligibility within the settlement agreements? What was the population served, including the number of individuals that would be served by the funds, including right here in the city of Monroe? We recognize the county also received opioid settlement funds, so it was important to us that the funds and the partners who applied for the funds were going to use the monies available to benefit those within the city of Monroe specifically. And then what was the data to support the request? And what was the need? If there was a need, how did the data support that need? What was the project timeline, the scope of work and thoroughness, and then the budget and the narrative for the program? So going into the program a little bit more, it did talk, the eligibility or the settlement agreements talk about the need for opioid remediation, and the funds had to be spent on opioid remediation. And there's a definition within each of the settlement agreements that talks about that, and it includes care, treatment, and other programs and expenditures that are designed to address abuse and misuse of opioid products, to treat or mitigate opioid use or other related disorders, and to mitigate alleged effects of the epidemic, including the effects on those who have been injured as a result of the epidemic. Pretty broad there, but also very narrow and specific in terms of what the funds are meant to be used for. What they could be used for is administrative expenses. However, the city cannot use it for our administrative expenses. As you'll see in the next line, it cannot be used for attorney fees, investigation and litigation costs, and the costs in operation and enforcement of settlement agreements. So if somebody applied, they could charge a certain amount toward their administrative fees to cover the grants. This is pretty common. The city does it in most of the grants that we apply to help pay the salary, because once you get the money, then the work begins in terms of the tracking, the progress, and the reporting. So the funds must meet the definition of opioid remediation, as we just went over, and they also must be used to execute evidence-based strategies. So if somebody is proposing a program, it has to be evidence-based, that there will be positive outcomes, not so much on a trial basis or an idea that hasn't been proven or best practice in the area of opioid remediation. And then also there's what's called Exhibit E, which is a document that's issued by the Attorney General's office that does lay out the allowable uses for the funds. And so when we looked at each of the applications, we looked at the 4 areas, which are core strategies, and there's a description here. That's things like distribution of naloxone, medication-assisted therapy for individuals who are experiencing substance abuse, pregnant and postpartum needs for women, neonatal abstinence syndrome, handoff program, which is when sort of a peer recovery program where we have a peer recovery specialist who is working and keeping somebody engaged who is seeking treatment until they get into treatment. And so that warm handoff into treatment and connecting to services. Treatment for incarcerated populations and evidence-based data collection are all what's considered core strategies. Prevention are efforts and programs that are designed to prevent overprescribing, the safe disposal of unused or expired opioids, efforts that are meant to prevent misuse, prevent overdose deaths, and also harm reduction. And then, of course, treatment for those experiencing opioid addiction. Connection methods, so connecting somebody to a provider for services, including funding those who are providing treatment, and then funds can be used to support people who are actively in treatment or recovery. And then other strategies that were defined include supporting first responders, training efforts, as well as research. So I'll pause there. That was a lot of background information in terms of what's in the settlement agreements and who we can award funds to. Any questions so far?
Questions for Mark at this point? I think we're still taking it all in. Thanks, Mark.
A lot of notes. And so when we receive proposals, we're reviewing them against all of this criteria, making sure that they fit the needs and the purpose for the funds. So because our funding is based on annual allocation, all of the proposals that were responded, we anticipate doing an RFP or request for proposals every year for providers. Some years we may have more money than others. Like last year and this year, we had quite a bit of unspent funds that had accumulated, so we had more money to distribute. But going forward, it will be by a set formula, which is about $40,000 to $60,000 we'll get every year that can be distributed to the community. We did explain that these need to be one-time funds, so we're not funding new programs that aren't sustainable, because what we don't want to do is fund a program and then perhaps next year or the year after not be able to fund that program. Or after 18 years, an organization could get used to having that funding, and we don't want to cut that off. And so these were meant to supplement already existing programs, not establish new opportunities. And then it is stipulated that the number of awards and the funds are based on what we have available every year, which is subject to change. And funding period begins after the execution of fund agreements. So last year you awarded most of the funds the second meeting in December. So we had all of the agreements executed by the end of the year so that programs in progress can begin on January 1. And so what we look at is for funds to be used between January 1 and December 31st, not on a rolling basis. And I'll say everybody that City Council decided to fund last year did great with making sure that money was spent within the year. And then finally, it is reimbursement based. So we don't just write somebody a check, but they have to pay the invoice, and then they submit proof that the invoices were paid, and then we reimburse them for that. And so last year, in 2024, we had $256,000 available. Go back to what I just said, that we get about $40,000 to $50,000 every year. Obviously, that's significant more. It's because we had several years of funding that had built up. That does not mean we're going to have $256,000 available every single year to grant out. And that's where last year we expected $40,000 annually based on the settlements that we had joined so far. And so after we sent the RFP out last year, we did receive 6 proposals that totaled a request of about $183,620. So you'll go back, we had about $250,000 available last year. We did recommend, and City Council decided to fund 5 of those 6. And I'll go through those here briefly. But last year we funded about $102,180 in programs in our community using these funds. So a requirement for all of our agencies that we fund is they have to submit quarterly reports to the city to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, to track progress, as well as look at, are you having any struggles meeting your goals, or have there been changes from quarter to quarter that we need to evaluate? And so in your packet this evening, you did have quarter 3 reports from each of the organizations. And the reason you had quarter 3 in December is because the last quarter goes up until December 31st, and so their last report isn't due until January. But we thought this was a fair way to measure, for council to have an idea of where they're at in terms of executing their grant, meeting their goals before the end of the year based on the third quarter. And you'll notice one of them was actually the second quarter report because they used all their funds by the end of the second quarter, so they didn't have to do a third quarter report. So you have the outcomes, you have their progress so far, and I just wanted to go through quickly and do a reminder of what we funded, who we funded each of the programs for. So the first one was MCOP, and they were awarded $20,000 for the Keeping It Real Youth Curriculum implementation at the Opportunity Center to address opioid use, misuse, and prevention through the mentoring program. So this is actually something you get a quarterly report from MCOP every quarter as well in your agenda packet. And you've probably seen a lot about the mentoring program, the Life Lessons with Larry program. They actually use an evidence-based curriculum called Keeping It Real. That's a national curriculum that they've implemented that uses both mentorship and relationship building as a way to for youth to have alternatives to opioid use or other drugs or opportunities that present themselves as gateway to opioid or other substance abuse. Monroe High School was funded $40,000, and this was actually for the high school and the middle school. Another evidence-based program called Project Success, which was a suspension alternative program to address the vaping epidemic that undoubtedly many of us have heard about in schools with youth vaping. And so they used their staff with intervention strategies, educational workshops, counseling services, after-school programs, as well as parental support programs. And you'll see one of the key indicators that they had in their third quarter report was that the number of vape, alerts that they got, I suppose, at the school actually decreased 43% over the past year. Through Monroe High and Monroe Middle, this was actually a suspension alternative program where if somebody was caught using vape or another substance, rather than be suspended, they would go through the Project Success program as an alternative to being out of school. Salis Center for Hope, they applied and received $7,200 for postpartum support for homeless mothers. This included assessment and intake, case management, skills and parenting classes, and then what's called the Lifeline program for independent living. And they targeted 6 individuals with that $7,200. The Lifeline program was meant, if you're unfamiliar with Salis Center, a woman who had just had a baby, if they were homeless, could go to Salis Center, receive case management and life support with the intent that they would grow on into independence and living on their own. And so the Lifeline program was continued support after they moved out of the Salis Center for Hope to make sure they were still getting the resources they need. And again, they ran out of their funding after the second quarter, which I think speaks to the need and the success they've had with their funds. The final two, Recovery Advocacy Warriors, RAW. We've heard a lot about them over the past year. I know that our public safety department has a great relationship with them as well. What they do is they train the trainer for peer support programs. So there's a national accreditation program called CCAR, where an individual who wants to be a peer support specialist can be trained and certified as a peer support specialist. And so what Recovery Advocacy Warriors, they applied for about $17,700. They train the trainer to be able to do the training here locally and have CCAR certified specialists here in Monroe that can help with that training and engagement for individuals. And then finally, Paula's House, $17,000. What they did is they offered prevention services to the children who lived with their mothers at Paula's House, or if they had lived with their mother at Paula's House, they continue to receive services as well. And the description is in your program. It was a lot of education, counseling. They did field trips, again, focusing on youth prevention of opioid use. And so just again, quarterly reports submitted by each agency. And tonight you've got the third quarter reports that happy to entertain any questions you have or concerns or feedback.
Questions for Mark? Let's start. So maybe I have a couple. Sure. So these are the third quarter, of course, as you gave the reason why it's at this time, and you'll expect additional report coming, correct?
Yes.
For the end.
Yeah.
So when I look at this, I guess it goes back to the criteria of what the funds can be used for, and these come from the well, when the funds arrive in the program, right? It states this what it is.
Yeah, the settlement agreements.
Okay. So I'm trying to understand the measurements then. I know there's probably direct and indirect results, right? I mean, there's direct is it's somebody, because everybody thinks of the opioid funding, and the funding that we have is you have somebody that has an addiction and they get help and they can get recovery. But there's also the indirect impacts that I seem, as I read through this, that seem to be there as well.
Yeah.
And you said, and I'm trying to, I don't want to say that's what I'm, you said that we're not doing what others are already doing. Is that correct?
We don't want to create new programs.
New programs.
Yeah.
Right. Is there, well, there's other funding that's within available in the community that other agencies receive.
Yeah.
Do you know if these are also receiving from others?
Yeah. So I serve on the Community Mental Health Partnership of Southeast Michigan Oversight Policy Board. And what we do, we receive a lot of the money that the state gets through the opioid settlement, and then also all the public funding. And so we look at across the 4-county region, which includes Monroe, Livingston, Lenawee, and Washtenaw County, all of the agencies who are providing substance use disorder treatment, and we fund them as well. And I will say many of the agencies, including, Monroe High School was funded through the ARPA program. Their funding ended when ARPA was pulled back by the federal government, and we stepped in to supplement them so that they could continue for the rest of the year. MCOP also received about $500,000 through the Community Center program through CMHPSM. And then Recovery Advocacy Warriors and Paula's House also received funding from other sources. I'm not sure if any of them received funding through the county opioid settlement as well. I'm not sure about that, but I know that they receive funding through other funding entities.
I have a question about what comes up next year, but I'll save that to see if there's questions regarding this review first. Other questions or comments? So looking forward, I don't see any. So looking forward, you put out there it is right there.
Yep.
I'll stop talking. Go ahead.
Happy to continue entertaining questions, but we did issue the request for proposals for the next year, and those were sent out at the end of October, and those were due November 28th, so this past week. There was not a change in the eligibility requirements and the eligible funding activities because those are pretty boilerplate with the language that comes with each of the settlement agreements. But this year we have about we took the $256,000 we had available last year. We funded about $102,000 this year. So this year we have about $157,000 available right now, plus the allocations that we're expecting in 2026. And one thing to keep in mind, City Council recently authorized joining the Purdue settlement, which I mentioned earlier. And so that is going to be a new amount of funds that we get. It's still being determined through the state how much of that is going to be distributed by formula to local units of government, but we know it will increase the amount that we have available every year. And we just got the proposals. I know some were rolling in on November 28th over the weekend, so I took a look at them today. We did receive 6 proposals that totaled about $186,800. Which is right on par with last year. Obviously, we want to be careful that we're not spending $186,000 every year because you'll notice the amount available keeps going down every year, and we're going to be left with what exactly we get in our allocation every year. And so we'll be reviewing the applications in the coming weeks to make a recommendation to City Council at your next meeting for those proposals.
So 6 proposals, were there new proposals?
There were,
Okay.
yeah.
Were there
Multiple.
same proposals?
Not all the same.
Okay.
No.
Just, so it's a mix.
Yeah.
I'm getting that because when it comes time to make the decision, the committee reviews that. I'm sure you'll look at these quarterly in the final report, and is it meeting the expectations or what the funds to be used for? And then evaluate those by needs in the community and prioritize it that way, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Each of the proposals that are received will be reviewed based on past history, and that's explained in the proposals that are submitted, but also our experience with the organizations that were funded this year and how well they were stewards with those funds and what the outcomes were.
And then Michelle.
do, say, a yearly report or they're requesting for funding for the next year, do they have to give a success story on a percentage of, and give examples of that?
Yeah, so we followed much the United Way distribution, if you've ever been a part of that panel. The same information that they score their agencies on is pretty much the same thing that we put in our scoring rubric. And you'll see in the third quarter reports that were in your packet this evening, there was a lot of data that was provided in terms of how many people were serviced, what were the outcomes of that. I think the hardest one to really measure is prevention, because how do you measure who did not use? But it's more like the Monroe High School vape statistic of 48% decrease in the number of vape hits that they've had in their detection system, but also MCOP through their mentoring program, how many youth they were able to serve, and then how much was that engagement. It's hard to say if any of them would have used had they not gone through the program, but it is again, an evidence-based strategy through both the Project Success program and the Keeping It Real program, and the surveys that they do as a result of that. And I know MCOP does that with each of their youth that go through the program to talk about, are you more likely, less likely? Do you know more now than what you knew then? Do you understand the harm of opioids better now than what you did before? And MCOP that was in their report this month, or this quarter. I know what the outcome of those surveys were.
Other questions? I guess a follow-up to that, I think if, surveys, are asked appropriately, you'll get results that can be measurable, and prevention is difficult, but if you're, asking the question correctly and the participants are freely sharing their thoughts, I think that's what I got out of a couple of these when they had the percentages and numbers from the school and MCOP, is, you have to take that as a measurement. It's numbers aren't all, it's about other impacts as well.
Right.
So just curious how you're going to get through it, that's all.
Yeah, in Recovery Advocacy Warriors, I think theirs was a little, easier to measure because their funding was to send somebody through training. So we know how many people are either have been through training or about to go through training, and that was their outcome. And then we hope that next year we're going to see the number of people that they have trained here locally and the number of people that those individuals have served through the peer support program would be the outcomes that we look to see, the growth in that program, but also the sustainability that comes with that and having the trainers here locally as opposed to having to go nationally for training. And then Paula's House, of course, the number of youth that they engage with is much like it's another prevention method. But I think last year it was a success in that we saw, going back to the eligibility, the eligible funding opportunities that we had the core strategies that address pregnant and postpartum women. We had prevention, we had treatment, and then we had other strategies as well. So we weren't spending all of our funds focusing on just one strategy. That's more a holistic approach across the community to deal with the opioid epidemic.
Okay. Other questions? You answered my last question, which was about when you talk about the trainers, and with the secondary thing comes is, once they're trained, what's their outreach? How many contacts have they been in? How many of those were favorable? And as they continue to train others, because then you can see from a community size, at least a population that have been, I'll say the supporters and how that might have resulted favorably or not. And okay, other questions?
If I may just add one more thing, the budgets I think are incredibly important too, because when you look at what are the amounts that each agency was funded, that is not their full agency budget, or it's not the full program budget. It's only a portion of it. And so we don't expect that we're going to be able to, with the funds that we get every year going forward, be able to support a whole program, but be able to supplement the good work that is being done by organizations throughout the city and county.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark. Manager Robinson, anything further on this?
Nothing
for the work
further.
session? Okay. Thank you. If there's any other items council has on this before we go to close the work session and go to the special meeting? Okay, seeing none. We'll close close the work session. Thank you, everybody. Paperwork. At this time, I'll call the city council special meeting to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Felder. Here. Hader. Here. Stilgrave. Here. Vining. Here. Jermaine. Here. Stringham. Here. Mayor Clark.
As we have on public comments, is that correct next? So this is a special meeting. It's to go into, we'll get the motion we see. There's about a executive session and city manager performance evaluation. Any public comments before this special meeting here this evening? Seeing no public comments. Manager Robinson? Any comment? I know what we're here.
No comment.
Okay. Any questions from council with the purpose for the special meeting? Mr. Buds?
The only thing that I want to say for purposes of the minutes is that I did communicate with Mr. Robinson and confirmed via email his desire that this session continue in closed session.
Correct. Thank you for the update. Okay, we need a motion. Councilman Felder?
Yes, Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we enter into closed executive session for the purpose of city manager performance evaluation.
Motion by Councilman Felder, supported by Councilwoman Stringham to go into closed executive session for city manager performance evaluation. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Felder.
Yes.
Hader. Yes. Stilgrave. Yes. Vining. Yes. Jermaine. Yes. Stringham. Yes. Mayor Clark.
Yes. We need a motion to go back into open session.
Second.
Germaine and Felder. All in favor, say aye. Aye. And a motion to close the special meeting. Councilwoman Vining and Councilwoman Stillgrave. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. Special meeting's closed.
I just want to get some water.
Was that? They're all running. Deb's not going anywhere. She just kind of standing. She ain't listening.
Actually, go ahead. She's ready. The control room's ready.
Call the city council meeting to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Felder.
Here.
Hayter. Stillgrave. Vining. Germaine.
Here.
Stringham. Mayor Clark.
Here, would I ask you all please rise for the invocation, remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Guide us in our deliberations and discussions this evening. May our efforts promote the good of the residents of this community.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item, please.
The next item is the approval of the regular agenda.
Manager Robinson, any adjustments or amendments to the agenda?
I have no amendments to the agenda this evening.
Any comments from council regarding the agenda? Seeing none. The regular agenda. Motion by Councilman Hayter, supported by Councilwoman Stillgrave to approve the regular agenda. Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes.
Yes.
Vining. Germaine.
Yes.
Stringham. Mayor Clark.
Yes. Next item, please.
Consent agenda, and for item B, approval of payments to vendors, the amount should read $1,702,715.44, 1702715.44.
Are there any items on the consent agenda that council wishes to have pulled for further discussion? Any items on the consent agenda council wishes to have pulled? Are there any items on the consent agenda, those present here this evening, wish to have pulled for further discussion? Any from those present? Seeing none, motion would be in order for the consent agenda. Councilman Felder.
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion that all items on the consent agenda be accepted, placed on file, recommendations carried out, and resolutions adopted.
Motion by Councilman Felder, supported by Councilwoman Stillgrave, that all items on the consent agenda be accepted, placed on file, recommendations carried out, and resolutions adopted. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Felder? Yes. Hayter? Yes. Stillgrave? Yes. Vining? Yes. Jermaine? Yes. Stringham? Yes. Mayor Clark?
Next item, please.
The next item is under presentations, communications, and public hearings. Item 5600, the Sawyer Homestead Annual Financial Statement.
Thank you, Manager Robinson. We received a correspondence from the Sawyer Homestead Annual Financial Statement. Comments, please.
That's correct. This is their financial statement. It is simply for your review and to be put on the record.
Any questions for Manager Robinson or regarding the Sawyer Homestead Financial Report? So I'll just make Councilman Biden?
I move to accept and file the Sawyer Homestead Annual Financial Statement for the period ending June 30th, 2025.
Okay, there is a motion to move to accept. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilperson Felder? Yes. Hayter? Yes. Stillgrave? Yes. Vining?
Yes.
Jermaine?
Yes.
Stringham? Yes. Mayor Clark?
Yes. So just to comment on that, I was not gonna, it gives us the 23, 24, 24, 25, and then 25, 26. I know Manager Robinson and administration staff have visited with the Sawyer Homestead and the organization. There are some items in the future that are coming, and just for everybody's awareness, in 2026, regarding balancing the needs with the revenues that are coming in, some greater use and service we need to have. So I appreciate this report because it gives us a balance or a foundation of where to start in our conversations. And Manager Robinson has been there more than once to visit along with staff to take care of what some of those needs are going to be. So I'm sure we'll see this in capital improvements as well. Clerk, next item, please.
The next item is under council action. Item 5584, case LD 25-002, land division of 317 West Front Street.
Thank you. Manager Robinson?
Way of basically introduction of this. This is a case number that went to our planning commission, CPC. The first C always shows.
Yeah, I
up.
got that.
The planning commission board to consider the dividing of 317 West Front Street from one parcel to three separate parcels. And in doing that, it paved a way because one of them is in rezoning, and they recommended that the city council accept that and do that because it does pave the way for us to get into negotiations to discuss the purchasing of one of the pieces of property that would serve our Loop Greenway Trail. And if you have any specific questions about it, I'm sure Director Cochran would be more than happy to answer if there's any questions beyond that.
Any questions from council regarding this item? No? Okay. Councilman Felder, you have a question?
It's just the parcel division that is under discussion tonight, not the rezoning. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Jermaine?
I move to approve the proposed land division for parcel 29-00404-033, commonly referred to as 317 West Front Street, from one parcel to three parcels as presented under the condition of an executed purchase agreement for parcel 2 between the City of Monroe and MB Monroe Properties Incorporated.
Support. It's a motion by Councilwoman Jermaine, supported by Councilman Hayter on item 5584, Case LD 25-002, the land division of 317 West Front Street. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Felder?
Yes.
Hayter?
Yes.
Stillgrave? Vining? Jermaine?
Yes.
Stringham? Mayor Clark?
Yes. Next item, please.
The next item is item 5609, organizational class and compensation analysis.
Thank you. Manager Robinson, comments or information?
Your Honor, as way of introduction again, as we presented this organizational class and compensation analysis at the October City Council working session, we recommended that we engage in a comprehensive organizational study to where we have this analysis come in. And what they do is they examine every single position, every single level, and compare it both internally and externally to make sure that fits our organizational matrix and our wage scales, so that, which is also something that was brought up, that this was going to occur while we were in contract negotiations. And I think it's the right thing to do. It's been 10 years since we have done such a study. And the cost of this project is about $52,000. And I think it'll be well worth it, as I think it assists us in any contract negotiations going forward. And it's also reassuring to our staff and at our different levels that our pay structure is appropriate for the jobs that they are doing. And I think it's really important to get this done.
Any questions for Manager Robinson? Councilwoman Vining?
I'm just curious, does this company look at elected official compensation as well? I know we have a commission, but
If you asked them to look at those things, they would do another contract to examine everybody, in compensation for elected officials. But in this particular study, they don't look at that.
Yep. Councilman Jermaine?
Does this organization compare like cities to ours? How do they do the comparisons?
It's a whole bunch of different matrix, but if there's any, Dr. Everly, you want to answer the particulars on what they use?
Council, Councilwoman Germaini, to answer your question, they look at external and internal relationships. So part of that external would involve a market study, and they do exactly what you were asking about, where they look at like communities and develop a cohort of similar communities to the city of Monroe and compare within the market in those communities, look at what each position is being, how they're being compensated.
Thank you. That's fair.
You're welcome.
Other questions for Manager Robinson or Dr. Eberly? Okay, it's before us for action. Bring them.
I move to approve the proposal by Vitreno Consulting to conduct an organizational class and compensation analysis in an amount not to exceed $52,000. Authorize the Director of Human Resources and Organizational Development to sign all necessary agreements on behalf of the city, and authorize the Assistant City Manager, Finance Director to amend the budget, including transferring funds from the contingency and/or fund balance as listed on the fact sheet.
support.
Motion by Councilwoman Stringer, supported by Councilwoman Stillgrave on item 5609, organizational class and compensation analysis. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Felder?
Yes.
Hayter? Stillgrave? Vining? Jermaine? Stringham? Mayor Clark?
Before I go to the next item, I found interesting reading through the company that April McGrath is employed with this company, and she was a planner here in the city of Monroe. I think I was on Planning Commission at the time. And she is, as you probably read, she is now the Deputy County Executive in Waterford. And I think back for years in her career, she came back when she was doing some things with Semcock and that too. So it'll be interesting to, she has experience knowing what Monroe is about over years ago, but still, her resume is very filled with many, as she was a city manager in Ferndale and a variety of jobs. So there is some, at least, association knowing Monroe. That's just a comment. Clerk, next item.
Actually, I have no further items this evening, Your Honor.
Okay, it's council comments. Councilman Felder.
Thank you, Your Honor. I hope everyone had a fantastic Thanksgiving. It's wonderful to see that there's so many great events happening in and around the community. And thank you to all the people who are putting in so much work to make that happen. Hope everyone stays warm. That's all the comments I have for this evening, sir.
Thank you. Councilman Hare.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Councilwoman Stilgrave.
I have nothing either, Your Honor.
Councilwoman Viney.
No comment, Your Honor.
Councilwoman Germaini.
I'm gonna make up for everybody.
I'll do that. Go ahead.
Last Wednesday before Thanksgiving, I had the pleasure of helping out at the ALCC to serve all those dinners. And the line just did not stop. I was amazed. They served almost 800 dinners, and the firemen did a wonderful job. Also, I want to say that the week of December 8th is the last week we can get yard waste, so clean up those leaves and snow and get them on the street so they can get picked up. And one last thing is wreaths across Monroe. This is something that I used to partake in all the time. Saturday, December 13th, it's honoring our fallen heroes. I don't know what they're doing this year, but they usually take a wreath and they throw it in the river. It's quite moving to watch. It's at 1 p.m. at Veterans Park, and I will be there, and hopefully they'll have a great turnout. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Stringham.
I was going to remind everyone about the leaf pickup because the wind blew my leaves down finally, and now they're covered in snow. So the snow reminds me, though, we're getting into that season, so just making sure that the homeowners know it is important to keep the sidewalks clear because you don't want someone to slip. So just making sure that our city is kept safe. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have a couple comments, and some of those were made already, but I won't review those. I just want to appreciate everybody that assisted with the Hometown Holiday Lights. It was another fantastic evening. Thousands of people that were here. The council, I know, was there as well. And all the volunteers, because it's not done without the volunteers, so I thank all of them. And we had a great process put in place, and I know that the committee that Clerk Lavoie, Dr. Everly, Bridget Cascone, and of course our communications. I could go on. There's many staff that took a role as well to volunteer their time to do that as well. And I bring that up just as a lead in because one of the items that follows this is the Deck the House Holiday Lights competition that our communications department manages. And I'm not going to read everything other than the fact that we hope people will decorate their house, sign up through the city. The registration closes on December 7th, and public voting runs until from December 15th through the 28th. So it was a good turnout last year for candidates and number of people that voted. A little bit of structure this change for this year, but I think it's going to be a great outcome as always. The winner will be announced on December 29th, and with our meeting in January, they'll be invited to come and we can have fun knowing who the winners were. This year's or last year's winner came to the tree lighting and was able to help count down and get a little recognition that way. I think somebody that Councilman Hader knows, so it turned out very well. So that is available on the city's website as well for those that are listening and wish to find out additional information. Of course, the communications department is always available to give extra. The refuse and recycling updates, of course, we have the holidays coming up, not quite yet, but it will be at the end, but just for preparation. Councilwoman mentioned about the last of the leaf pickups, but just be mindful as we have our holidays, December and 25th and January 1st. Those days are no collection, but they do move forward onto the following day on Friday. An item that came out, and I will send it out to council, but I want to make it known because it's also something that the community can be involved in. Manager Robinson and I have already discussed this, and it's the Integrated Resource Plan Open House regarding DTE Community Conversation. This is the opportunity in which they're going to be presenting information regarding their two energy system plans that DTE is developing, the Integrated Resource Plan and the Distribution System Plan. They're having this public meeting and open house on Thursday, December 4th, from 5:30 to 7:30. Everybody's welcome to go, not just those that are elected officials or maybe making decisions regarding that, but it is those that are present and hopefully those that are listening, that if you have input and you want to hear what's being planned with the integrated resource plan. That is the plan that they develop that gives the long-term planning of what they're doing as far as not only energy, but what items that they may be putting in place for the future. And I'll just read what it says. Customers will have the opportunity to share feedback on the energy system 5, 10, and 15 years into the future. Their feedback will inform DTE's planning process for providing safe, cleaner, more reliable, and affordable energy. There will be dinner and refreshments. I don't know if dinner is dinner, but it'll be food and refreshments will be provided. The location's at the Monroe County Community College and the Lazy Boy Center on South Raisinville Road. I think everybody knows where the college is and where the center is. Registration, you can find the registration opportunities to through their website, or I'm sure it's a public announcement that came out. And also learn more about the upcoming community conversation by visiting the Power Michigan information sessions and Empowering Michigan. They're also going to have virtual meetings for those that can't attend. There'll be other meetings outside the city of Monroe. Again, I want to share that, and the public is welcome. I will make sure that this email gets disseminated to the council so you have as well. Those are my comments for this evening. Clerk Lavoy.
I have no comments this evening.
Manager Robinson.
I have no comments, but Director Tolstead asked if he could make a couple announcements real quick about something they have coming up here in the next couple weeks.
Director Tolstead.
Hello, Mayor, City Council members, Clerk Lavoy. Thank you, City Manager. Chad Tolstead, Director of Public Safety. As Councilwoman Germaini pointed out, our firefighters did host their annual Thanksgiving dinner this last Wednesday. It was 800 meals served was the final count of that. That was also the 34th year that they've done that as well. And not only do our current firefighters do it, the retirees also come out, very time-honored tradition for them as well. But we had spouses out there assisting with it, and the local Girl Scout troop as well was out there handing out desserts as well. It was a very nice event, and those guys do a great job with it as well. Also, this Friday, the police officers at Tim Hortons, 404 South Monroe, will be ringing the bell on behalf of the Salvation Army from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. This has also been a very tradition here in Monroe. People are very generous, especially the colder it is, the more generous they are for the cops standing out there ringing the bell. So all the money for that stays here locally with the Salvation Army. And it's also a great tradition as well. So that's all I have for this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you much for the additional information. See no other comments here. Any comments from citizens' comments? Any comments from those present here this evening? Seeing or hearing no comments, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Motion from Councilman Feller, supported by Councilwoman Germaini to adjourn. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Felder?
Yes.
Hayter? Yes. Stilgrave? Yes. Vining? Yes. Germaini? Yes. Stringham? Yes. Mayor Clark?
Yes. Thank you all.